This Daytona / Milwaukee recap edition of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by our Patreon. Score exclusive perks, content, and contests, including our NFL win totals contest with a $1,000 prize. Join today at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is offering you a chance to win $15 million in prizes with Best Ball Mania 4. Use promo code SGPN Underdog Fantasy for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. We're also brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use code SGP. New customers can score $200 in bonus bets instantly when they bet just $5 on any college football bet. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code SGP.
Driver, start your engine!
Strap in and pull those belts up tight as the Sports Gambling Podcast Network presents the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
I'll wreck my mom to win a championship. I'll wreck your mom to win a championship.
With all the news and the best bets for your NASCAR weekend.
It refrains me from not beating the out of you right now because you ask me stupid questions. But since I'm on probation, I suppose that's improper to say as well. If you could talk about racing things, we could talk about racing things.
Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb.
It certainly was an exciting weekend of racing, and yes, I am back to where I belong in my home studio. Welcome to the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez. First and foremost, Cody, I just have to say I am very excited to be back here, sitting in this seat and not in some remote location with the echo and driving my commander out of his room.
Yes, it's nice to see you back in the comfort of your own home in your own studio. I'm just glad that you were able to still be with us, even though it was different. But yeah, it's nice to be back in the main digs, and you take a deep breath now. Daytona, the chaos is over. Might have some more predictable races coming forward. But Rod, what a weekend of racing! Friday night race, a Saturday night race, then 3 races on Sunday we got to enjoy. We had some rough races, but most of the races we actually cashed some pretty good bets in. I really hope you listen to the F1 Gambling Podcast. If you don't, I'm sorry you missed out big time because we absolutely killed it over there for the F1 race. But man, what a weekend for racing. What a weekend for betting. And we got a playoff field set now.
Yeah, we do. And yeah, you absolutely crushed that F1 slate. Holy cow. We talk about Alfonso came through. I mean, we'll talk about that too when we break down that race, but boy,
yeah.
Woo, what a day.
Yeah, tune in over there. But yeah, man, we had a 33-1, a 28-1, a plus 650. Like, oh yeah, we had some big ones over there. So that was nice. We most of our card on the F1 race paid out. IndyCar, we'll get into that when we have our IndyCar episode. We should have cashed more. We hit a decent one. Well, one decent one, I guess, still. But yeah, it should have gone a little differently, but that's okay. We'll break all that down when we get to it. Obviously, if you missed it, we already talked about Xfinity Series. We did a live show on Friday night, kind of a little different, but it happened to work out that way. Built some DFS lineups since we already knew the starting lineup for the Cup race Saturday, and recapped the Xfinity race, which we had a lot of success in that one. Having success in one of 2 Daytona races, Rod, I will take that.
Hey, and honestly, with the way those Daytona races shook out, and let's be honest, the way the Milwaukee race shook out, and we'll talk about that in a second, you just got to be happy with what you got because, I mean, even that Milwaukee race was a little more Daytonish than I wanted it to be.
It had its elements.
It had its time, but yeah, I mean, look, when we had the entire field wreck out in a half of just one lap, that was obviously, like I said, we'll get there too. But yeah, this whole weekend, I am so glad that we told everybody just take it light. And honestly, as I listened across the board to other people as well, I mean, look, it wasn't just as if our card was shot by a lot of those. There were very few people out there that were, and listen, shout out to those of you who are holding Chris Buescher tickets.
Yeah.
We saw a couple of those, but yeah, I mean, his chances were just as good as anybody else's at that point.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll go through the bets, even though a lot of them didn't hit, like we always do, because we like to be transparent, right? But I mean, we talked about it. You go lighter at Daytona. They're educated guesses, which it's always an educated guess, but there's a lot more that can go wrong on Daytona than other places. I mean, obviously Joseph Newgarden can still back it into the wall for whatever reason, but that's how it goes. And we saw. It was weird because we saw chaos, but it wasn't as much chaos as I thought we were going to see. I mean, there was one big wreck, and there was, 16 cars involved in it, so I get that. But I really thought there was going to be more big wrecks. Obviously, we had the Priest flip over. I mean, insane crash. That's one of the craziest crashes I've seen in a long time. He's been released from the hospital. He's home in North Carolina, which is great news. But, man, other than those, wasn't really, I really thought we were going to get, especially as they were coming towards the end. And then, we get the caution for overtime. And I told my wife, she's like, oh, we're going to overtime. And I go, get ready, because there's going to be about 4 more overtimes coming up. And they didn't. It was one overtime, and that was it. It ended up being less chaos, which I think kind of hurt our card, because it wasn't as much chaos as maybe we had predicted, even though there was still a lot of chaos, which we knew was going to come. So it was a mixture of both, I guess, some, but not enough. And just landed how it landed, I suppose.
I wonder, though, how much that Priest flip kind of calmed everybody down as far as
100%.
trying to take many chances. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I know these guys are crazy, but when you see something like that, it just got to stick with you, and oh man, that could have been me.
Yeah. Well, and these guys they talk about it, right? They can see the screens. There's TV screens around the track. Denny said he saw it he looked over while he was driving around the track under caution, and he goes, holy shit. It was an insane wreck. And I think at that point, everybody takes a deep breath and says, okay, let's not have that happen to us. And I think something like that is kind of a check of okay, everybody takes a little bit easier. They maybe don't make that one extra move they would have made. Could make a huge difference and shakes up. I mean, honestly, I was disappointed in the lack of effort at the end by some of these. It's you have to win this race to get it. And it's I really didn't feel, I mean, I get once the 6 and 17 hooked up, you weren't going to stop him. Brad was just going to push him. He didn't even make a move when they're clear by 30 car lengths at the end. He could have gone for the win then. He's just happy to push his car, get another win as an owner. He doesn't care. So, I mean, once they got hooked up, you probably weren't going to catch them, but I don't know. Same thing we talked about with Sheldon Creed. Why didn't he door Allgaier and try to beat him on Saturday night or Friday night rather in Xfinity? Didn't make a lot of sense either, but here we are anyways.
Well, and we talk about it too when we talk about Keselowski and Buescher. I mean, at this point, Brad's had a very distinguished career, and yeah, you want another win, you want all the accolades, but boy, he's starting to make his ownership now sort of the thrust of what he's going for. I know he knows probably that he's not going to be behind the seat for very much longer, and he can still drive. Obviously, he's still young enough, he's still talented enough, but I think at this point in his life, he's like, okay, well, look, I've done a lot of great things. Now let me start to put my ownership in focus, and we'll start building that up to what I've on the track.
He still wants to win though, but he knows that team win. I mean, Chris Buescher went from a guy 2 years ago that had one fog race shortened win to he's won 4 races in 2 seasons, and he's won three out of the last 5 races. Have we had any Hendrick cars or Gibbs cars that have won 3 of 5 this year? Maybe Byron did early in the season, but that's a pretty dominant run, and at all different styles of tracks. He won at Michigan, he won at Daytona, he won at Richmond, different tracks. And I don't know it, but yeah, once they got hooked up, there was no stopping them, I don't think so. But yeah, again, it was a great race. I thought it was a good race. It was exciting. There were storylines throughout it. Obviously got the big crashes, the spectacular Priest crash. Luckily he walked away. Seems okay and everything, but crazy Saturday night.
Indeed, and we'll talk all about it. But guess what this weekend is? It is the official start of college football. And college football fans, I know you're ready for week one. DraftKings Sportsbook is hooking you up with a can't-miss offer to start the season strong this week. New customers can bet just $5 on any college football game and score $200 in bonus bets instantly. Fresno State's playing. Going to toss them down on there. Get those $200 in bonus bets instantly. Anything can happen in college football. Your team could go from unranked to dynasty mode in just a couple of years. Change comes fast. The only thing that's a lock is the great offers from DraftKings Sportsbook. Like I said, looking forward to that Fresno State game. Might want to go ahead and toss some of that. Cody, you got any college football going this weekend? Is there anybody that you're keeping your eye on?
I mean, the Huskers are +7 Thursday night in Minnesota. I don't want to do it because they let me down for so long, but I've been drinking the Kool-Aid, so I'll probably take that.
Been drinking the Kool-Aid.
That Navy bet went really well for me, so definitely tail my college picks. Obviously, that's going great so far.
Well, listen, Army is -10 against University of Louisiana Monroe, so I think I might want to take that because that is, of course, my Army West Point team. It's -110.
You know what I really like, Rod? Bet against Colorado. They're playing TCU this week. I saw a Sports Gambling Podcast, the main account, tweeted out like some of the bets that have come in this weekend on Colorado, and it's absolutely ridiculous. That I locked up their under 3.5 a while ago total wins. They're going to be so bad this year, and everybody's sucking Dion for whatever reason when he's not going to win anything. So there you go. But I don't care what the number. I don't even know what the line is. Just take TCU in that game. They're going to absolutely destroy them.
Well, as you can tell, life is a lot more fun when you're in on the action. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook now, the Sportsbook app now, and use code SGP. New customers can score $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 on any college football game. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code SGP. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Bonus bet expires 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Terms at sportsbook.com/football terms. Yes, indeed. That is where it's at. So,
all right, Rod, should we start breaking down these bets?
I think we should, my friend.
All right, Riley Herbst, top 10 +320, top 5 +700. This one actually looked good for a while. He was running up there with them. He started up front. He started, 6th place, I think. We talked about it. He was in a Stewart-Haas prepared car. Look where Stewart-Haas qualifies. 1, 2. He's in 6th there. And then 9, 10 with the other two cars. Like, they showed up. They had speed. They had fast cars. And he was mixing it up. He was up front throughout the race. I believe he did get caught up in that Corey LaJoy, or not Corey LaJoy, the Ty Gibbs and Ryan Blaney wreck there, and ended up finishing 38th. So obviously didn't cash this, but looked good for a while. Looked like he could run up there with the pack. Rough weekend for Herbst, unfortunately. BJ McLeod, top 10 +750. Where did BJ end up finishing? He ended up 23rd, but you look at it, I mean, Ty Dillon finished 11th. So that alone tells you it was possible for something like that to happen. Yaley 19th, BJ 23rd. So just needed a little bit more chaos. Like we said, there were 16 cars involved in that one big wreck, but only a couple of cars actually went out of the race at that point. And so it just not enough chaos for the BJ to cash. But he did what we thought he would do. 23rd is a really good finish for him, and he avoided the wreck that there was, at least, and just needed more chaos for that to cash.
Yeah, and when those wrecks happen at the front of the field like that, it's like I said, it's amazing that we didn't get a Ricky Bobby type thing where it was only 2 cars left.
And even the announcer said as the wreck was happening, he goes, only like 6 cars have gone through this. Like, no, it was like, a couple cars shoot through, and then it was just nothing. Like, everybody else was in the wreck. It was crazy.
Yeah, it looked like a parking garage, and it was like, well, here we go. Let's sort this all out. And see
they had so many cars with all the tires flat. They red flagged the race to try and get them all an even start on behind the trucks giving them a push and whatever. Like, geez, that was a crazy wreck.
It really was. And then, not enough chaos also to bring to fruition a Josh Berry top 10 as well. There were points in the race where Berry, that 42 car, was mixing it up with the top 15, which made me think that maybe possibly he could, jet into the top 10. But it was just way too much jockeying going on, and Berry never really found anybody to truly work with. He was caught, every once in a while in those situations where people would jut out and he wouldn't jut out with them, or he jutted out, nobody would jut out with him. So nobody was really working with that 42 car, unfortunately. And that you can't do it alone. You have to rely on people, and nobody was there to help him. So Berry did not get in the top 10 either.
Yeah, again, another one that you probably needed a little more chaos for. Unfortunately, the chaos just didn't quite happen as much. I had Allmendinger top 5 plus 550. Even put the puke emoji next to this in the document. And for good reason, because AJ'd, and he finished 29th. He was one of them caught up in that big wreck. He wasn't necessarily as impressive as maybe I thought he would have been. Also had Eric Jones top 5, 18th. Again, it wasn't just, he was never really up there. There was one point I think he was up there for a minute, but you didn't really get much from Jones. Again, these are guys that are really good at making it to the end of super speedway races. And that was what I was really leaning into. And when, we ended up with 29 cars actually technically running at the end of the race. So like there was only 10 cars that were out of the race for accidents or overheating in Todd Gilliland's case. But a lot of cars, and AJ was the last car actually to finish that was still running in 29th. A lot of cars finished this race, and that's what makes it tough on the way we built these bets, is because we were prepping for utter chaos where there was 6 or 8 cars left on the lead lap last year, and that's more what we expected, and we didn't quite get that. So unfortunately, these ones did not cash either.
And what's crazy is that only 4 of the cars that were running at the end of the race were not on the lead lap. Everybody else finished on the lead lap. The last person to do so was Tyler Reddick. After that, Hamlin finished a lap down. Larson finished a couple of laps down. Burton finished. That's we'll get there.
Oh yeah, I got that one loaded up. Don't worry, Rob.
But Allmendinger was the last car running, basically, and he finished 3 laps down. So it was tough. Yeah, when you get caught up early in a wreck, it's hard to, bounce back and stay back.
Well, and not always though. That's what's crazy is like usually you can go multiple laps down at Daytona. There's so many cautions, so many lucky dogs. But then after that big one, we only had one more caution, and there wasn't even a lucky dog handed out because Hamlin and I think Yaley were the 2 cars a lap down at that point, and they were both involved in the wreck, and so like they didn't even get the lucky dog, and there was just the lack of cautions was crazy. Especially after what we saw in the Xfinity race, like it turned into kind of a madhouse, and that's what we really expected Saturday night. And they kept it so clean. And the racing was great. Like we had 3 wide racing. It was old school Daytona. Like it's not like it was boring, and they did a really good job. Those 2 big wrecks, but then the one wreck was really a 2-car wreck, and I think actually Eric Jones was part of that. I think he's the one who actually took Brian Preece out. So there is that. But oh well.
Well, and so, it was actually Chase Briscoe, the 14 and the 41, I think, or maybe Eric Jones got into them. And
I think Jones got into one of them and then started the whole thing and got through it, but who knows?
All right. Yeah. So again, that's the tough part about it. There's only 3 cautions total, just to your point there. I had Ty Gibbs as a top 5 car. He was caught up in the big.
He looks so
one.
Good though, Rod.
He had an opportunity. He definitely did.
He was up there 4th in stage 1. Mm-hmm. He was racing for the win in stage 2 when it happened. Like, what was Christopher Bell thinking? To take your own teammate out like that. Even Denny said on his podcast, he goes, why you're pushing like that? I don't know. I saw comments from other drivers. Why are you pushing like that in the corner? Just, man.
But that's a tale as old as time. Like, I know my kids just watched Beauty and the Beast, so I have that on my mind. But it's a tale as old as time on these super speedways. Pushing in the corners has always been a gigantic point of emphasis for these guys. It's like, just don't. And yet here they are year after year doing it. So I'm wondering at what point it's never going to go away, obviously. But it's something you got to self-police if you're doing it around. And yeah, Ty Gibbs, he was up front, and it looked like very well could have had a top 5 finish, and that got taken away from him all because Christopher Bell decided he wanted to get a little bit antsy and push when he shouldn't have. So,
yeah, and like the way it was kind of shaken out too, he gained a couple of points on Bubba in stage 1, and I think they finished 4th and 6th, so not too far apart. But he was going to finish 1st or 2nd in the second stage. Bubba was not going to get any stage points, so like that was going to take a big dip into it, and he was going to have a chance to catch him. Obviously, that wreck just kind of screwed everything. I had Gibbs to be the top Toyota at 6-1. Again, you're just making that small a number of drivers a bigger group. Panned out for us in the Xfinity race on the Toyota. We hit was it I can't remember who it was that finished the top Toyota, Casgrala maybe, plus 850 I think that one was. But yeah, I mean, you look at this race, like Bubba was the top finishing Toyota, but he was 12th, so it's not like he was super high up there. Bell finished 16th, but then you got to go all the way back to 24th, 25th, 26th, actually, for the other 3 Toyotas, other than Gibbs, obviously finishes 35th. But had he made through that accident, really good chance. I think he's going to be the top Toyota, was the top running Toyota most of the race until he was taken out. So, again, I think it was a good bet. Austin Dillon, top Chevy. AJ, top Chevy. Obviously, we talked about AJ already. Austin Dillon, I think he got caught up. I mean, who didn't get caught up in that one big one, right? But I believe he was one of the cars that didn't quite make it through there. Yeah, and he was actually did not restart after that, so he finished 33rd. He was pretty torn up in that one. So just unfortunate. Again, didn't really get to see what he maybe could have done for us. But you're throwing these darts, and these darts just didn't work out on Saturday.
No, and neither did the Michael McDowell dart that I tossed out. I had Michael McDowell as a top 3 car at 10-1. He started 39th. I mean, he finished 13th. So that talks about the chaos that there definitely was to even get him that far. He was able to be in the pack, but yeah, it was frustrating.
It was a whole weird thing. They had some type of issue in qualifying, and there was no practice to like feel things out. So we weren't even sure like if his car was going to run good on Sunday. And then I didn't even realize he finished 13th. I don't remember seeing him the whole day. So I guess he survived enough and got a decent finish at the end, but I don't think he was really going to be a threat for a top 3. No. Rod,
so hold on.
Oh, God, I was so excited for this part too. I guess
I know, and now you'll be excited for it, but you got to hang tight with us real quick, because I got to tell you that August is almost over. Literally, by the time you're listening to this, it could be over. You know what that means? Time's running out for you to draft your fantasy football team on Underdog Fantasy. Get championship ready for your home league by trying out Best Ball on Underdog Fantasy. All you got to do is one live snake draft, no waivers, no trade. Just set it, forget it. Underdog does the rest. Try it out with Underdog's Best Ball Mania tournament. It's the largest fantasy football contest of all times, with $15 million of total prizes up for grabs, including an absurd $3 million going to the winner. You have what it takes to win it all? Yeah, you do. Time is now. The last day to draft your fantasy football team is September 7th. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com and find them in the App Store and sign up with the promo code SGPN to get your first deposit doubled up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code SGPN. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Make sure you check out our Patreon. Listen, I'm telling you right now, becoming a part of the SGPN family is fantastically. In fact, I just celebrated my 3-year anniversary as a contributor to the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. I started out as a writer for fantasy football, kind of parlayed itself into the fantasy football podcast till I hooked up with Cody here on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast, and the rest is history. F1, Indy, like what haven't we covered so far? The journey continues to grow, and that's all thanks to you guys and the entire SGPN family. So sign up to support us with our Patreon. You get exclusive access to contests, including the NFL win totals contest with a $1,000 first place prize. This week's Patreon pick'em is all week 1 college football. Patreon's a great way to support the network and fight back against corporate gambling. Join our family. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. Incredible to think that 3 years has gone by already since I've become a part of this. And
that is crazy. Okay, Rod, I'm on the clock in a best ball thing here. This is a new one I just started today, of course, because you got to keep them going. I got the 5th pick. Who are we taking? It's Tyreek, Cup, Eckler, Diggs, Bijan. I was leaning Eckler. What do you think? How should I start this team out?
Diggs. You know that Diggs is going to get
God,
his.
you gotta make me take a Buffalo Bill.
I have to make you take a
Jesus,
Buffalo Bill. Come on,
gross.
think
Ugh,
about the rest of those. I mean, Tyreek, yes, in Miami, but
ugh, let me hold my nose while I make this pick.
you're going to be thankful.
Okay, I picked him. Jesus, that's
Diggs,
disgusting.
easy 1,500
This
yards.
is my least favorite team already.
It's fine. When it wins you the $3 million,
I will share the pot with you.
all right, fine. All I ask for is the $10 finder's fee for that. So
Oh, $10. Oh, geez. Okay, I was gonna give you at least 20, but if you just want 10, like whatever.
I love it. All right, Rod. This one you're excited about, so get to it.
The number one rule at super speedways, the commandment: fade Kyle Larson at super speedways. But Rod, he looks so good throughout the race. He's up front. He's mixing it up. He's running so well. But what happens every time, Rod? He gets caught up in the wrecks, ends up with flat tires, ends up multiple laps down. He even looked good at the end of the race, trying to help push Chase Elliott to the win. But he was 3 laps down, 3 laps down, whatever. It didn't matter. Finishes in 27th. He still only has one career top 5 finish on super speedways. So Rod took Eric Almirola over Kyle Larson at -125 over on DraftKings. Almirola finishes 3rd. Easy peasy. Also took Kyle Busch over Kyle Larson at -120. He finished 7th. Another easy peasy one. Daniel Suarez was the other one that was available. I said I didn't trust Suarez enough to take that, but even Suarez beat him, Rod. So I would have taken BJ McLeod head-to-head against Kyle Larson on a super speedway, and I'll do it next time if you give it to me. BJ McLeod beat Kyle Larson. Ty Dillon beat Kyle Larson. JJ Yaley beat Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson sucks on super speedways. When we get to Talladega this fall, which is his worst super speedway easily, we'll do this yet again, and they'll likely cash yet again, and we'll have this entire conversation all over. Fade Kyle Larson on super speedways, Rod.
It's the free space in your bingo card. It literally is. Like, that's the one that you start with, and then you build the rest of your card around it. If you're going to go heavy on any bets on super speedways, it's all the head-to-heads against Kyle Larson. That's where you know that you are going to come out on top.
And he even admits it, like he's just not good at him. And even no matter how good he looks during the race, because there's times where he looks good, always finds his way into the wreck, and he did it again. There was only one wreck really on the day that involved a substantial amount of cars, and Larson had to be one of them. That's just how it goes.
It's the law. It's Murphy's Law, right? That's the way it is. All right. My next bet was the one that hit, and that was Chris Buescher over Kyle Busch, -105. I mean, look, it's hard to beat first, right? And honestly, Kyle Busch was up and down in this race. This was a very strange one for Kyle. He started 18th. And then the ebbs and the flows of the whole thing just sort of took him out of the top 10, put him back in the top 10. Like, he wasn't at the end of, he wasn't in the top 10 at the end of stage 1. He finished 2nd in stage 2. And then again, it was just Kyle would find partners and then lose them. And then, fall back, fall forward. I think he even got kind of nicked up a little bit at one point. It wasn't that he got like completely hit, but I think he got nicked, or if he didn't, it was very close. But just for Kyle Busch, it was just a weird day for him. And then to end the day 7th, I was almost like, where did he even come from at the end of that? Because I don't remember seeing him anywhere near. I think he just picked the right line toward the end of the race to be able, and he did lead 5 laps too, which again shows that he had the kind of car somewhere around the middle of the race to actually do and make some noise. But I don't know. This was a weird one for Kyle Busch, but for Chris Buescher, obviously at the end, all he needed to do was beat him, and he did.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Busch, man, he was kind of impressive again on a super speedway. Like, he continues to be really good. He might be a guy we're gonna have to keep an eye on when we get to Talladega this fall. But obviously Chris Buescher wins the race. So you hit this one. Again, you want to focus more if you're going to take head-to-heads on the small money stuff, or if you get plus money stuff, -105 on that. I know the Larson ones were bigger, but that's the exception of the rule because that is the rule. You fade Kyle Larson. So, but that's the right way to attack it. And this one cashed for you. Congrats. Corey LaJoy, he cashed the top 10 at +170, Rod.
That was, that's the one.
So we hit that. That was great. Top 5, top Chevy to win. Did not cash. Just not enough chaos. I mean, really, he wasn't up there as much as I would have liked to have seen. I think he was kind of hanging back a little, hoping for more, and we just never got it. Like that. That was the thing with so many of these bets. It didn't end up as chaotic as we'd hoped. So yeah, unfortunately, not Corey LaJoie's day. He'll have to wait until probably next year. Maybe we'll bet on him again at Talladega just because we can. Although Talladega, his worst super speedway as well, so we'll probably go a little lighter there. But you never know. Maybe he'll win the Daytona 500 next year and just kick the season off with a bang.
Yeah, Corey LaJoie's corner was a little tiny corner this time, but
It was.
that's
It
all
was.
right.
The top 10 cash, so
Top 10 cashed.
we'll take that. But yeah, the rest of it just not to be this week.
All right, I had winning manufacturer Toyota. We were just picking the longest odds of that. At the beginning, it started to look pretty good, right? I mean, with Gibbs and Bell and all those Toyotas running up front, we thought, okay, well, maybe we got a shot. But then we saw the Chevys start to take, their place in it. And then all of a sudden we saw the Fords taking their spots up there. I mean, so here's the thing, right? So Chase obviously Chase Briscoe leads the first 22 laps. Okay. He was in, the front. He was at the pole. So of course, but then it was Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex. You're like, okay, great. But then, like we said, Chevys with Allmendinger, Elliott, Allmendinger, Chastain, Allmendinger, right? All these, leading the race, and then all of a sudden toward the end of it, it was Buescher, Harvick, even Briscoe for a hot second, right? Then all of a sudden the Ford started to make it. Was just like I said, it's weird ebb and flow of the race. Just sort of, you never really knew which one was gonna actually be there at the end. So
yeah, exactly. And you're just looking for value, plus 380, right? So again, value. We saw Gibbs was up there. We saw Bell was up there. Truex and Hamlin led quite a few laps each. So they had their chances for sure, but obviously just didn't quite work out in the end. Winners, Rod, I had Ryan Blaney 13-1. I mean, he's leading the race when he got wrecked. So not much more you can ask for him to be doing at that point. I think he would have been there at the end if he'd have made it that far. So just didn't happen. Eric Almirola 30-1. I mean, he finished third. He was up there all day long, started up there, stayed up there, never really left up there. That was a great bet. Eric Jones, we talked about him, 35-1. You probably would have just needed more chaos for him to get up there. And her 100-1, I definitely placed that one again. I mean, he starts 6th, so right there, not that starting great here means a lot, but showed you his car was going to be competitive. He ran up front. Denny gave him a shout out on the podcast, how he cut him brakes and how he was working well with them. So I think that overall pretty decent card. The Jones one, probably the one I'm most disappointed with, just because we didn't see him up there much. But again, had it been more chaotic, had we got to some overtimes, maybe that one would have hit then at that point. So I'm a roll at 30-1. I was rooting for him hard there at the end, but just wasn't quite to be.
no, it was not. And then of course I had the Toyotas. I had Denny. I had Bubba. Denny led some laps. Denny led 12 laps. So it wasn't as if his car wasn't bad, but Denny, king of bad luck. Just absolute king of bad luck.
Well, and he kind of brought it on himself too. He went to the back and
he hung out.
He thought there was going to be, he thought the same way I did, and actually made the right call initially because he went to the back right before that big wreck and stayed out of it. And Bubba went with him and stayed out of it, kept his points, point position alive. And then Denny thought there was going to be more like I did, and there just never was more. So he never found his way back up there.
Well, and it's funny too, because when we talk about Denny and super speedways, and we talk about it all the time, that he will pull himself out and he will take himself out of line and say, I'm good for now. I'll hang back. And when he did that immediately, I was like, oh, okay, well, there's Denny being Denny. And the announcers were like, whoa, there must be. And I was like, no, Denny does this.
Oh, and then they pulled up the radio and he goes, I'm getting out of here. And he
Yeah.
pulls up and drops back. Like that's what he does. He is the king of doing that. And he's won 3 Daytona 500, Rod. So he knows something about how it works. Like it's done well for him, and it didn't work out this time, but can't say you blame him. He saw the one wreck coming and it happened. And then he just thought there would be more chaos, and there wasn't. And I can't say I disagree with him. Like I thought there would be more chaos too, and it just never happened.
Yeah. And so for Denny, he ends up 26th. So, I mean, again, he was up front. That was a fast car. It was not necessarily a bad call, but just his strategy didn't work.
Well, and then he had a crew member over the line too soon or something. Is that what got him? Because he ended up finishing lapped. I think it was during that one green flag pit cycle they had. He had a penalty and had to come back down, and that's what at that point, then he got so far behind that he was just not with no cautions. There's no way to get the lap back, and so that really screwed him.
Yep. Bubba started fourth. Really good start for Bubba, and in fact, he actually had said after this was the one interview that he did that it didn't sound like he hated the world and himself. He finished 12th. So he said he was locked in. He said he was having
you could just, man, the relief, like the weight taken off of his shoulders for finally getting into the playoffs. It's great to see. I love Bubba. He's a great driver, I think. He does a lot of good things for the sport. And, Michael Jordan's one of his car owners. Michael Jordan was there on pit road. And then Michael said something about see you next week. Like he's going to be at the net. And they said they've seen him so much more. He doesn't have the Hornets anymore, right? He could be at the track whenever he wants to be at the shop whenever he wants to be. It's great to see him so involved in NASCAR, and both his teams get in. Bubba makes it in. So, yeah, I think it was great to see.
Yeah, again, he didn't win the race, but he did have a good solid one. And I don't know, maybe a couple more things happen. He may be able to get out there in the front. He didn't have a lot of friends around him, though, because Toyotas were not necessarily all right there. So,
and then I think he was racing a little conservatively at the beginning just because he was trying to be safe. And then he got locked in as far as if there wasn't a new winner. So then you started to see him make the push towards the front. Just never fully made it up there because, Denny wasn't there to help him as much. And, there was the lack of cautions and wrecks actually get him up there. But I think, again, if we'd gotten a couple of cautions late, maybe could have gotten him up there for a win.
We'll never know, but that's all right. We'll just be happy with the one that we did cash and move on to the truck race on Sunday. We'll do that. Hang tight. We want to tell you about a show we love on this network.
Hey, everybody. If you play fantasy football, especially in auction leagues,
or you're a whiskey fan.
Yes, exactly. Check out the Sports Gambling Podcast Fantasy Football Channel show, Old Fashioned Football.
Coming to you every Tuesday morning. Give us a listen. We'll bring you the latest fantasy football data, including
the injury report,
studs and duds,
waiver wire targets,
and suggested fab.
Market movers. After all, we are the Marks.
He is my hubby.
And she's J Mark's wifey.
And we're bringing all this to you while drinking an old fashioned and giving you our honest review of a different whiskey every week.
All that and more. Hop on over, give us a listen, come for the football, stay for the whiskey.
This ad's almost done.
Going once, going twice.
Sold.
All right. So it was
before we move over, some breaking news. Interesting little change here. Penske has made a change for 23 and 24. They're sending Jeremy Bullins from Ryan Blaney's number 12 car over to the 21 Harrison Burton Wood Brothers car, and they're taking Brian Wilson from the 21 Wood Brothers car over to Ryan Blaney's 12 car.
What?
So a little interesting swap there between Austin Cindric and Harrison Burton. Obviously, the 21 car is essentially a fourth Penske car. Wood Brothers owns it technically, but everything's run out of the Penske shop, and it's in theory a fourth Penske car. But so yeah, they're making a swap there, I guess.
Speaking of a driver that we're about to talk about here, Carson Hocevar driving the 42 car now.
That's for this week at least. It's just again, they're just for whatever reason announcing drivers 1 week at a time, whatever. But it will be great to see. Trucks are off this week. They're going to Kansas next week for the first playoff cut race actually for them. But yeah, no trucks this week at Darlington. So Hocevar will be piloting the 42 car, which will be exciting to see. He had a great run going in the 7 car at Nashville in his Cup debut. Obviously, the brake rotor hit the wall late there and ended up not getting the finish out of it. But I think it will be exciting to see him, and I'm excited to see him in that 42 car.
Me too. Hopefully, he'll do some good things in that car. So, yep, definitely. And speaking of Hocevar, definitely had some bets on him this week in the Clean Harbors 175.
The good portion of the show, Rod.
I know, right? I know. It's the Milwaukee Mile, and we had a lot of fun on this one. We actually had this race pretty much. In fact, who was it on? Was it Ty Tiger or JDK said that's
it was both of them, I think. It was a combination of
No, I like it because somebody said that's when you know you're seeing the ball well. And I think
yeah,
that was my favorite. That was my favorite comment out of the entire thread there, because I mean, we were seeing the ball well on this race.
Yeah, and again, this was just like we tried so hard to lay this weekend out for you. We were going to give you the picks. They're the educated guesses at Daytona, but it's so hard to peg. You just you throw them out there. You hope for the best. We hit some in Xfinity. We didn't hit so many in the Cup Series. Like We knew that's how it was going to go. And then we said Sunday, you're going to have your chance for a quote unquote normal race in the Truck Series. It's going to be easier to predict. And we told you, we didn't bet on the favorites. We took the top 2 favorites. We said, we're not betting on them today. And Rod, 3 of the 4 guys we gave out ended up finishing first, second, and third in this race. Like, it really played out exactly how we saw it playing out. It was great. And so, yeah, we'll just jump right into it. Carson Hocevar, we just talked about, had him for a top 3 plus 100. There was a chance late he was maybe even going to win that race. I don't think there's really any way he was going to hold Enfinger off. I held my breath very hard as they touched and almost took each other out and cost us a lot of these bets. But luckily that didn't happen. Hocevar held on for second place. So, yeah, at even money plus 100, this one was never really that much in question. Like, Hocevar was up front throughout the day and was running well. So, yeah, things worked out for him and finishes on second.
Yeah, it definitely, I mean, again, that was not even a question because we knew Hocevar was going to be good and he proved it very much so.
Well, and this is like what, 7 or 8 like top 4 finishes in a row on true oval tracks. Like, things are going really well for Hocevar. And he's like, I don't have it right in front of me, but he's like 7 points, I think, away from locking himself in. Like, he just has to like finish ahead of 2 cars at Kansas or something. And then he's good to go to get to the next round. So things are going well for him.
I like his chances for sure. Heartbreak, Cody. Absolute heartbreak for my next bet. I had William Swalich, a 16-year-old phenom, as a top 5 truck. Cody, where was Swalich at the end of stage 1? He was in.
Well, first of all, he goes out and wins the ARCA race beforehand, so he gets all the the track time. Things are looking good. Gonna parlay that into a good truck race, and like you said, stage 1.
He was 6th place in stage 1. He was 6th place in stage 1, 5th place in stage 2. He was a 5th place truck for a better part of that race. Gets loose underneath one of the trucks, ends up wrecking out. I was devastated. And that was lap 136. He did not have a lot of race left to finish being a top 5 truck, but I'm telling you right now, this kid is for real. I am on Swalich for the rest of this.
Dude, this is Corey Heim from last year, and I don't remember if they compared that on the broadcast or if I saw that somebody say that on Twitter or something or on X, whatever. But somebody compared, he's just like Heim last year, and it's like, boom, Heim was coming in, he was winning races as a part-time guy, young guy, and then he took a look at what he's done this season. Like, it's been pretty freaking great. And Swalich, watch out, because I think he's going to be full-time next year. Full-time-ish. I guess he's only going to be 17, so can't even technically run all the tracks. So we'll see what the plan is, I guess, for him. But he's going to be a guy we're going to continue to talk about. I think this was a great call by you. I had Carson Hocevar over Zane Smith. Oh, there goes Zane Smith to the back again, Rod. I will admit I did not see this entire race. I was doing some other stuff with the family and watching IndyCar in this race all at the same. But again, like, Smith did not qualify well, 18th in qualifying. And like, it just, man, I mean, he was, let's see, he didn't even finish anywhere in the top 10 in stage 1. He was 10th in stage 2, but the end of the race, like 12th, just, I don't think he led any laps. Like, just Zane Smith has not been the same Zane Smith. There's something going on. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know if this contract situation, I mean, obviously Front Row didn't renew his option or whatever. I don't know what's going on, but until further notice, like, off of Zane Smith for a while here, and Hocevar over him, it was an easy day. Like, it was no question about this. So, Hocevar over Smith minus 120 was an easy cash.
Yeah, Zane was not a factor in the lead pack at all. So, like you said, he was 10th at the end of stage 2, but really that was kind of irrelevant because it was just a matter of a couple of people were not necessarily where they're supposed to be anyways. And yeah, I mean, again, his final finish in 12th, it was not impressive. So I think you're right. I think we're kind of just off of Zane Smith as far as going heavy on what we used to be. So.
Again, like, these guys had some good finishes lately too. So it's crazy to say it, but for where they're giving him to us, I guess it's if you keep getting guys like Hocevar against them, like, how do you not take him with all the struggles that Smith has had lately? It's just been rough. So
Yeah. All right. I had Hocevar as the top Chevy. Obviously, he wasn't, but he was the second top Chevy. And who knows if anybody could have, if Corey Heim would have actually finished his charge and actually made this more interesting.
Ugh, I'm scared, me, Rod. The 1 week I didn't bet on him, he's looking good there at the end for a minute, and I'm like, God, I'm so used to rooting for you to do well, but maybe not this week, Corey. Back it off a little.
Yeah. No, again, with Hocevar being the top Chevy, that one didn't pan out. It was close. I mean, it wasn't that far away, but
still a good bet. I mean, in Enfinger's crew, like, geez, they were trying to throw the race for him. Like that, it made him work for it for sure. But you definitely weren't far off. Enfinger, speaking of him, had him for a top 5 plus 125, easily the best car on the day. I mean, he comes out in qualifying, he gets the pole. He just led right away, swept both stages, ends up winning the race. His crew cost him a little bit twice there. He came back to the front both times. So this was never the biggest question of this was when Hocevar got into him as they were battling for the lead, and I was afraid they were both going to spin out. But otherwise, Enfinger was top 5 all day long with no questions. This one easily cashed at plus 125.
Yes, it did. My next one would have easily cashed, but another heartbreaker. I had Nick Sanchez over Ben Rhodes.
Yes.
That was heartbreak among heartbreak. 142 laps had passed, and stinking Corey Heim and Nick Sanchez get into it.
That was such a weird wreck, too.
It was a horrible wreck, man.
Heim just completely ran him over. I don't know how he didn't get pinned between him and the wall. He just goes around like that was a weird. The whole thing was strange.
Yeah, and it was definitely heartbreaking given the fact that Sanchez finished in second in stage 1. He was in the top 5 in stage. I mean, Ben Rhodes was starting to put it on toward the end of that race. I'll give him that. But
I mean, Rhodes fell off to 16th like by the end.
Yeah.
So
that's what I'm saying. Sanchez was the faster truck the entire race long. Sanchez would have cashed this if he would have been able to cross the finish line. But unfortunately, he got taken out. And I mean, he did cross the finish line, but he had already, it was already too much for him. He finished 24th, but he started second. So
he started second. He finished second in stage 1. Like he was running up there throughout the day, and looked fast and looked good. And then, that unfortunate. That was after that weird pit stop too, where a bunch of people. I'm gonna have to someday figure out, Rod, why these cars or trucks in this case, if you're so much slower than everybody. I get you're staying out for the track position, and okay, great, you're going to be second when they wave the green flag, but like within 5 seconds, 47 cars have passed you. There's not even that many cars on the track, and it's like, why stay out? Like, get out of the fucking way. That never makes sense to me because they never stay up there. They always fall back, and so that it was them checking up, and then Sanchez checked up, and I just ran him over. So
yeah, if they know already that they don't have a fast enough
right.
You're
not. There's zero chance you stay up. Like there's a couple of select tracks where maybe it will work. Especially like it's a super speedway or something. Then you try it. But you're not. I don't know. It bothers me when these guys stay out, and it's like you're gonna get run over literally. and so I don't. Whatever. But anyways, conversation for another day, Ron. I had Ben Rhodes top 3, Stuart Friesen top 5. These were each 6-1. Just some long shots kind of tossing out there to maybe see what they would do. And they didn't really either do anything. Rhodes started 10th, so there was that. Like you said, he kind of had a little bit of a charge there late. But really his result did not reflect that. He ends up finishing in 16th. And Stuart Friesen, I think he's just checked out, Rod. He finished 30th, so I don't. He started 7th though. Like he started good. Or no, he didn't start. He didn't start 7th. Never mind. That's how many points he scored was 7.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
No, I don't know. I guess we're not gonna bet our favorite Canadian for a while because rough. He didn't make the playoffs, and things obviously are sort of falling apart in the 52 camp. So unfortunately, neither of these bet. They were just kind of tossing some stuff out. Maybe you'd end up with a fast truck randomly, or end up with some chaos at the end and they get up there. But neither of those happened, so that's all right. We'll pass on those ones anyways.
Yes, we will. I'm going to lump my next two together because they kind of go hand in hand. I had the winning truck as odd at plus 100 and Chevy also as the winning manufacturer at plus 130. An odd Chevy won this race. Therefore, we are all happy in this instance. Yeah, definitely just it was the one that we thought was going to win. So like I said, if we think that was going to win, then taking those two, especially at plus money together, that's a hell of a day. I wish you could parlay those. That would have been even better.
Yeah, that would be really great. And yeah, I mean, you look at it and like Hocevar was, of course, the one guy that maybe you were a little scared of here, but we thought Enfinger might win this. We thought Eckes might win this. They're both odd trucks. They're both Chevrolets. Like, yeah, all kind of lined up and pointed that way. Obviously, Majeski was maybe going to be of concern, which it's going to be interesting. There's a lot of stuff. There's like some rumors NASCAR might kick them out of the playoffs, Rod. I don't know what the hell they were doing to their truck, but it'll be interesting. Obviously, we'll talk about it this week whenever the news comes out about what penalties might be issued, but interesting to see what's going on there, because it sounds like some penalties are coming for sure. They took a tire, confiscated one tire. So that's that's what I'm saying, Rod. I don't know what they were doing, but somebody found the nitrous bottle in the tire or something. I don't know what's going on, but I had Matt Mills to win Group F plus 230. This one did not really have a chance. Matt Mills, he ended up, I don't remember if he got spun or if he ended up with a pit penalty. I think he might have had a pit penalty. But he did. I mean, he didn't start well. He didn't run well, and he didn't finish well. He did beat nobody in this group, actually, I don't think. So yeah, apparently he did beat Matt DiBenedetto. So there is that. Crafton, though, shout out to him, had a top 5 run. He ended up in 5th place, so I didn't see that coming from him. Taylor Gray had his ups and downs. Where'd Gray end up? 13. So it's not, I mean, not super great finishes from anybody outside of Crafton. So I thought maybe this would have a chance. Maybe that 51 would show up and be quick, but not the case, Rob.
No. And really for Matt Mills, they said his name once. They were like, oh, look at Matt Mills up here. And then that was it. And then that was the last you heard of Matt Mills. I think they said his name exactly once in the entire broadcast.
Yeah.
So, all right. And then, of course, for winners, Cody, like you said, we had 3 of the top 4 top 4 of the top 3. I don't know. I can't count. We had a lot of them.
We had 3 of the top 3.
We had
all 3 top 3 guys. Yeah.
So who did you have?
I had, just too many tabs, Rod. Carson Hocevar plus 500. Again, we talked about it. Majeski was the favorite. His comp tracks didn't look that good. Then they end up, which I'm glad we weren't on him, because they end up getting, having that tire confiscated, all that stuff. And he ends up, was he not allowed to qualify? Or did he qualify, but it didn't matter? I don't remember what they did. I think I can't remember how it worked, but he had to start the back, had to do a pass-through penalty, like the whole thing, which pass-through at Daytona is fine. Pass-through at Milwaukee Mile is not as helpful for you. And then Corey Heim, again, it was love the dude, love to bet on him. The numbers weren't great. And this type of track, maybe not so much. Now, Kansas in a couple of weeks, probably going to be back on Corey Heim. I'll tell you that right now. Like, he's probably going to look good. He's probably going to be fast. But so it's Hocevar for the favorites for us. Obviously, he benefited from Enfinger's late pit issues there and took the lead, had a chance, didn't quite get it done, but that's okay. Also had Stuart Friesen at 50-1. Obviously, he was just out to lunch. I thought at that number, I think Friesen's always worth considering at that number just because of what he can do. But Enfinger 9-1, not a guy I bet on very often, Rod. I stole him from you this week. I had the feeling, the whole GMS thing, he's kind of that blue-collar guy, win one for the Gipper type of guy, and that's what they did. And then he comes out, he qualifies it on the pole, absolutely dominates. He won me a ton of money in Truck DFS this week. That was easily my best series this week. I had him in the lineup. I had him, Hocevar, and who else was it that? And no, I don't think I played Heim. So, Derek Kraus, who ended up finishing 8th after starting 25th. So he made me, so having those 3 guys, and Kraus was actually up there in the top 5. He fell back a little bit, but those guys ended up carrying my lineup for me. So that was great. But yeah, Grant Enfinger 9-1, cashed as the winner. So that was nice. Nice little recovery after the heartbreak of the IndyCar race that afternoon. And after how Saturday night went for the Cup Series.
Yeah, I mean, again, that was all just so much heartbreak this weekend as far as having the right bet and then having it just snatched out of your hands. So and then I gave you if Grant Enfinger didn't win, I gave you Grant Enfinger, which I'm sorry, I gave you Christian Eckes. I love that I got called out for that. It was such a late night that night. I didn't know what I was talking about. But that's why I doubled down. I knew Grant Enfinger was going to win this race, so I wasn't going to give you anybody else but Grant Enfinger. But I did give you Christian Eckes as a backup. Christian Eckes finishes third. And look, if Hocevar and Enfinger would have collided in that last lap, if they would have taken each other out, who would have driven straight through that?
Oh, and they almost did, Rod.
I'm saying, like, I was almost thinking to myself, oh crap. I was like, oh, if they do, oh man, wait,
wait, this could actually work out. Well, that was, yeah, so Hocevar like takes the lead late, and I'm like, okay, good. And I'm like, Enfinger's going, and I'm like, wait, I have a bigger number on Enfinger. Come on, Enfinger, like, let's go.
Yeah. I was like, wait a second, who's got what?
I wanted Hocevar to win this, but now I really want Enfinger to win this.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those situations where it didn't matter what happened. Like we were covered either way. So definitely happy about that one. So again, this is like we were seeing the ball well, right? Eckes was 11-1 on this one. So definitely did not disappoint us on that. But overall, not necessarily the greatest of days or weekends as far as betting cards, but there was some good stuff.
We had some good races in there. This was one of them again. The more predictable races are just easier to hit on. If you only listen to the Cup Series race every week, like look at this weekend, we hit decent bets in Xfinity and we hit really good in the Truck Series. Like these series, in my opinion, at times are a lot easier to predict. The numbers are sometimes easier to work around, like depending, and it depends on the options. Sometimes we don't get the best of options and stuff either. Mm-hmm. But this was a good week, and we talked about that. At least I don't remember if this was one where you had a little bit of problems filling it out, but like I had no problem. I found stuff I loved right away. Easy card to fill out for me, and it paid out well. So luckily we got lucky on a few things, like the Majeski circumstances. I mean, he had flashes in that race where he looked a little bit fast too, but never was quite able to climb back up there. And obviously Enfinger just dominating the day really paid off well for us. So
well, the only reason I had trouble filling out is because you stole all my good picks. That was it. I had to go. You got to the
sorry, not sorry, Rod.
I was gonna say you got to the dock first. That's why it was tough for me. So
hey, like we talked about before, what's mine is yours. What's yours is mine. It's
at this point,
it's all we're by legal terms, 200 and however many episodes into this, we're
250 now.
It's a joint entity. Is this 250?
Welcome to 250, everyone.
Oh shit! Look at that. Damn, we're gonna hit 300 this year.
We're hitting milestones like they're Barry Bonds home runs.
That's right. Without the steroids, even.
Says you.
Okay, Rod's using steroids. Me, not so much.
Oh, what a great way to end this episode. I think we've already reached max. No, I'm just kidding. So now we move on, right? We move on to Darlington. We move on to the first round of the playoffs. It's going to be an exciting weekend of racing, obviously. Like Cody said, no trucks. So we will do our best to come up with a fun way to spend our Friday episode with you guys as well. But yeah, I'm telling you right now, this is getting to the end of this season, and it's been a hell of a ride. Still a lot more to go.
We got a lot to go still. So don't go anywhere for sure. But yeah, Xfinity, it's coming down. There's 2 races left. We got Darlington and Kansas, and then their playoffs begin. The first round of the Cup Series playoffs, and I think this might be something we talk about on Friday. But like going through this playoff field, Rod, I would say, and we'll talk. I don't want to go too far into it, but I would say there's probably 2 cars that I don't think can win the championship out of the 16. Like, there's probably not been a season before where you could say you've got 14 cars in there that I could legitimately see a way for all of them to be the champion at the end of the year. Like, it's again, we'll go through it later this week, but it's going to be, these playoffs are going to be intense. Like, there's not room to make mistakes this year, and I think that there might be some surprise guys eliminated earlier on, because if you make any mistakes, it's going to cost you. And I'm pumped. This is going to be a great playoff run. Huge names in this, huge names that aren't in it. The guys like Chase Elliott win some. Like, what if he just rips off like 3 or 4 wins now? All the pressure of the playoffs is off of him. He goes out and plays spoiler and keeps some guys from winning and advancing. Like, it could get crazy.
It's a flying the middle finger the entire time. Just as he's doing the burnouts, everyone gets the
That's
middle
right.
finger.
Yeah, it's man, I'm pumped. It's gonna be a good playoffs, and I'm excited.
In a season where he doesn't even make the playoffs, that's the crazy thing about it. Like, I mean, that's when you know this has been a wild season, that Chase Elliott doesn't even make the playoffs.
I mean, you go back to last year, like Martin Truex Jr. didn't make the playoffs either, and he raced every single race. Like Elliott missed a bunch of races. So, but yeah, I mean, RFK has the same number of cars in the playoffs that Hendrick has. Like, only 3 Gibbs cars got in there. It's fun. It's a good year.
It is indeed. All right. Well, then we'll begin the playoff push as we get close to. So tomorrow we'll do the Cup Series, obviously, odds permitting, and we'll get rolling with that. So Cody, let's put an end to Daytona. Let's put an end to Milwaukee, and we charge ahead to next week. But in the meantime, let everybody know where they can find you on social media.
On to the track Too Tough to Tame, Rod. We're going to do our best to tame it when it comes to bets. So follow me on X at Husker_Zeeb. You can find all my stuff over there. Getting down to fantasy football time. Ton of stuff out over there for Last Word on Sports. Got us a bunch of stuff for sportsgamblingpodcast.com as well. So check all that out. Check out the F1 Gambling Podcast, Rod. 28-1, 33-1 in the same race last week. They're back this week. So we're going to be trying to hit some more fun ones like that. And I'm excited.
Indeed. Yeah. On to Italy for F1 for sure. Having some fun over there. And then another IndyCar episode, possibly, if we can get the bosses to sign off on it again. Been having fun doing that as well. So I still type twitter.com. Find me there at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio, everything I got going on. Whether it's here, whether it is in between media, I'll be back on the back road with Seth and Elliot this week, breaking down Darlington, and of course, catch Fast Money. Still got articles coming out for the Sports Gambling Podcast as well. So lots of stuff going on. Find me there. But we'll see you guys tomorrow again, back with more for the Cup Series action. Until then, let's go racing and let it ride.